Okay, today we're doing front brakes on this Honda Accord 2006. We're going to replace the rotors and the brake pads, and don't need that many tools to do it. Just need the 12 millimeter for the caliper. We're going to use the impact screwdriver because the screws that hold the disc on have some rust, so it's a little bit difficult to get them out, and this will help. And then we're going to use the breaker bar for the bracket for the brake caliper because those are torqued on pretty tight. And that's a 17, that's about it. Okay, I'm removing the two 12 millimeter bolts that hold the caliper into the sliding pins there. Where's my electric gun at? No corrosion. These suckers are low. Thought you said you saw 4 millimeters. Where's my big screwdriver when I need it? There we go. Okay, now I'm removing the 17 millimeter bolts that hold the bracket on. Okay, now that everything is out of the way, we're just going to take out the screws with the impact screwdriver, and then we can remove the rotor. Okay, in case, say you have a hard time getting off the rotor and it's stuck on there because a lot of rust builds up in here, you can use a bolt in these holes here. There's 2 holes, and you can use those, crank the bolt on, and then it'll push the rotor off of the hub here. But in our case, we're okay. Okay, before I put on the rotor, there's usually residue, oil, whatever on there. Just gonna clean it off before I put it on. Oh yeah, it's pretty oily on this side. Okay, now I'm going to put on the rotor and just line up the holes where the screws go in. Okay, now I'm just gonna get the bracket ready to put back on and just clean out the buildup of brake dust in here on the hardware. And then another thing I like to do is, well, that is a good idea, is taking out the pins and lubing them. There's not much lube left on there, getting a little dry. There you go, just make sure the boot goes back on. There you go. And we'll put it back in place. Okay, the original pads here, they have shims on them. Sometimes the aftermarket pads don't come with it, so you don't want to, it's not a good idea to go without any shims at all, so you might want to save these. They just pop right off and use them as needed. Okay, so now I'm going to put the pads in, and I'm just going to lube the contact points a little bit so we don't have any unnecessary noise, friction, whatever. And using the pad with the sensor on the inside. Okay, now we're going to put in just using an old pad to work with the tool and just press in the cylinder or the piston, and we're just gonna basically push it in as far as it will go back. And you just gotta keep an eye on the brake fluid as well. You don't want that to spill out of your master cylinder reservoir. Okay, and then now the pads are in place and the piston's pushed in. All we need to do is get the caliper back into position, line up the sliding pins here, and put the 12mm head bolts in. Oh, and make sure right here that the pin on the bottom, it has to fit a certain way so that the caliper will actually slide back into place. That's that. Okay, and one last thing, I'm just pumping the brake pedal to push the piston back out so that it rests on the brake pads and the pedal doesn't sink to the floor when you go to drive it away.